I don't think it'll surprise anyone when I say that Weiss in Volume 1 was not a good person. She was arrogant and self-centered, stuck up, looking down on all those around her that she saw as lesser than herself, which, to be honest, was most people, aside from those like Pyrrha, who she thought very highly of, but still only considered as someone to gain something from. And, of course, Weiss was also discriminatory towards the Faunus. All things that are put on full display in Ice Queendom, as we are getting a look into Weiss's mind. The dream born from her insecurities, a clear look at how she views the people around her. In particular, the other members of Team Juniper. Where Pyrrha is put on this pedestal, they are left to not even say regular words that can be understood, left as meowing, almost as if they are seen as Pyrrha's pets. A sentiment that seems to be put on display earlier in Ice Queendom when Weiss theorizes that, well, maybe by supporting a lesser team leader, you can earn more points for yourself in class. But the main focus that is put on full display in Ice Queendom is her views and discriminatory behavior towards the Faunus. The Faunus in Weiss's dream symbolized as grim-like monsters. These are the White Fang assailing the train when we first get into Weiss's dream. And honestly, I think they embody all Faunus within Weiss's dream. Through the last couple episodes of Ice Queendom, as we have delved further into Weiss's dream and seen the interactions that she's had, it has been stated multiple times by Weiss that all Faunus are not welcome within her empire. That Faunus are the ones who hate humanity. And so, with the way Faunus are represented in Weiss's dream, I think that all of the Faunus are represented as kind of faceless monsters within her dream. The views that she has in Ice Queendom, I would say, are pretty accurate to what we have seen of Weiss in Volume 1. I've seen a lot of people saying that Ice Queendom has ruined Weiss's character by portraying her in such a way, but I don't think that the way Ice Queendom has portrayed Weiss really ruins her character at all. In fact, I think it only strengthens it, not only because of how these views probably do represent how Weiss was meant to feel in Volume 1. I mean, literally, go back and rewatch Volume 1. The things that are shown in Ice Queendom, showing her mentality behind the things that she says and the things that she does, I think are quite accurate. And because they are shown this way, it also shows how far Weiss has come from the mentality that she had in Volume 1 to the mentality that she has at the end of Volume 8. That is why Weiss has become such a beloved character of the RWBY fandom, because of where she started and where she has ended up, how far she has been able to grow. But more importantly than that, I think the way that Weiss is portrayed within her dream and the views that she has on the people around her make her so much more of a sympathetic character. She views the Faunus as monsters, not because she necessarily looks down on them, but because she is afraid of them. Think of the words that Weiss has said throughout the RWBY series and throughout Ice Queendom thus far. She has stated that Faunus are the ones who hate all of humanity. They want to wipe out humanity. Never once has she stated that she herself hates the Faunus. All of it is derived from fear. They are the faceless monsters that are out there to ruin the Schneedust Company, to make her life miserable, and the source of all of this fear and the apprehension towards the Faunus comes from one person in Weiss's life. The one person that is everywhere within her empire. Jacques Schnee. The statement that Weiss made in Volume 1, that because of the White Fang's attack on the Schneedust Company, that dust continued to be stolen from the trains, cargo would be lost, and her father would be angry. He brought that anger home, and that made for a very difficult childhood. And this is why Weiss views the White Fang as monsters. Because it was due to the White Fang's actions that her life became miserable. She was told these stories by Jacques of what the Faunus have done, how they've killed people just to get what they want. And that has been set in the core of Weiss's mind, the controlling nature that Jacques had and her views on the Faunus. And that is why her conflict with the Faunus is such a central focus of Weiss's dream, because she is insecure about wanting to trust a Faunus, wanting to trust Blake. That is why Blake appears as she does within the dream. She still has monstrous parts of her body, but she still appears as herself. In Weiss's mind, there is a face to give the monster. She is able to see Blake as herself, but still these monstrous characteristics because she is unsure of being able to trust her. And to be clear, there are faceless individuals everywhere in Weiss's dream. The workers in the Schneedust Company, the shadows of the people in the cities of Atlas, and the faceless monsters that are the Faunus. They are simply individuals in Weiss's mind to represent the larger group. But since Weiss hasn't actually interacted with the individuals of those groups, she doesn't have, individualities to apply to them, faces to give those characters within her mind. But Blake is the one Faunus that she can give that face to. And that is why the core conflict of Ice Queendom, or at least the empire within Weiss's dream, seems to be Blake continuing to cause problems for Weiss. Blake is constantly on Weiss's mind. Yes, Weiss holds these horrible views, and if anyone were to run into Weiss or someone like Weiss on the street and try to interact with her in any way, you would have the same sentiment that I did when I first saw Weiss's dream, that she is a terrible person, and on the surface, she absolutely is. But all of these terrible characteristics come from one source, Jacques Schnee. The way he raised her to be an heiress, to think of herself as better than everyone else around her. That is why Team Juniper appears as they do within Weiss's mind. And yet, a commoner among them, Pyrrha, is still seen so highly by Weiss, even by the time she got to Beacon Academy. An act of defiance, in a way, from Jacques' mentality and the way that Jacques raised her. And the way that the Faunus are viewed within Weiss's mind is implemented by the fear that Jacques put in her. And honestly, I realized this a couple weeks ago. The fear that Weiss has from all Faunus, seemingly in her dream being represented by the monsters of the White Fang, which, by the way, is symbolic of the masks that the White Fang donned, because they donned the face of monsters because people saw them as monsters, and now kind of comes full circle in Weiss's dream. But the fact that Weiss views all Faunus this way says a lot about the impact that Jacques' words and his actions have had on Weiss. Because one thing you cannot forget, the interactions that Weiss has with Faunus didn't just start with Blake, and weren't only from Jacques bringing his anger about the White Fang attacks home with him, and that impacting Weiss. Because in Volume 7, we saw Faunus workers within the Schnee Manor itself. We have to remember, Jacques is willing to employ Faunus, not only within the Schneedust Company, because of course they make good laborers in the mines, but he's also willing to hire Faunus within his own household. Now, I guess this could have come about because they had to fire Klein, because Klein helped Weiss escape at the end of Volume 4, but really, with the size of the Schnee Manor, Klein couldn't clean the entire thing himself. In Weiss's empire, Klein is 7 different individuals, a couple of them being doors and, not really able to clean things, but in reality, in Remnant, Klein is but one man, with 7 different personalities. He can't clean the entire Schnee Manor and answer to every member of the Schnee family all at once. There would have to be other hired help that we just didn't see throughout Volumes 4 and 5, but in Volume 7, we see more butlers and employees of the Schnee Manor, some of which are Faunus. Jacques is willing to let Faunus into his own home. And yet, in Weiss's empire, no Faunus is allowed. That speaks way more to Jacques' impact on Weiss, how while she was growing up, Jacques would bring his anger of the White Fang attacks home with him. That it made for a difficult childhood for Weiss. That is why in Weiss's empire she relies solely on the Kleins to do pretty much everything for her. That is her only butler, because she was too afraid to rely on the Faunus employees of the mansion because of Jacques' anger. Because of Jacques, Weiss became this terrible person. And thanks to her being able to get away from Jacques, and meet the rest of Team RWBY, she became the person that we know today. So on the surface, yes, Ice Queendom is putting Weiss's negative qualities on full display and making her seem like an absolutely terrible person, which isn't really inaccurate. But the reason these are on full display is because she's insecure about these aspects of herself. She wants to change, but she doesn't know if she can. And that is the core of Ice Queendom. Weiss wants to change, and she will change. We've seen her change in the RWBY series. She used to be a terrible person, and she was at the beginning of the RWBY series. But the rest of her friends, the rest of her teammates, are bringing her out of that. And that is only seen when we look deeper than the surface level in Ice Queendom. This series, I've said it multiple times already, is incredible with the look we are getting into Weiss's mentality. There are a lot of things that are shown to us on the surface, but there is so much more beneath it that we can delve into that makes these characters so much stronger. And I honestly love the series for everything that it's done so far. And it's only half over. There are still 6 episodes left, and I can't wait to see what will be shown in the coming episodes. But let me know your comments down below. What do you think of Weiss's character thus far? Do you think that she is a terrible person, as has been displayed in the surface level of Weiss's dream? Or do you think she is simply a girl that was scared by the things her father said, scared by her father's anger and the stories that he would tell of people being killed by these monsters called Faunus, the members of the White Fang? Honestly, I think the answer is pretty obvious, because once she got out from the influence of her father, we saw what kind of wonderful person she could become. But I'm curious to know what all of your thoughts are as well. If you guys enjoyed this video and the little bit of a deeper insight into Weiss's character throughout Ice Queendom, and you want to see more videos like it, more Ice Queendom videos, more RWBY Volume 9 videos, etc., make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at PhoenixKnight7, and I'll see you guys in the next video.